In today's video, creep on the Amtrak train. The one who was not a thief. The unmarked van. Alright, this will be my first time making a longish post on Reddit, as well as writing about anything from my memory. This happened 12 to 13 years ago, so I'll do my best. I tell this story sometimes and still think about it often. I'd be happy to answer any questions people have in the comments if it seems like I left anything out. The creep in this story didn't mean any harm to my friend or I, but made it quite clear to us that he did to others. This happened when my childhood best friend and I were both 19 years old. We grew up in rural New England, and neither of us had been further west than Florida. We were rowdy teen boys who were super into punk music, and we dressed the part for the early 2000s, manic panic hair dye, studded leather jackets with patches, you get the idea. We had decided that we were way too cool for the East Coast, and the time had come for us to head west. Our other bandmates had decided that going to college was more important than the local punk scene, so we had just become townies playing SHT music, working at SHT jobs. We quit our jobs, said our goodbyes, and bought 2 Amtrak train tickets for Portland, Oregon. The train ride left from Boston, Mass, and lasted 3 days. I don't think there were cabins to sleep in, maybe if you paid extra, we obviously didn't. We had only a small amount packed, including our guitars and a fifth of cheap whiskey we had gotten an older dude to buy for us. The train had a couple cabins of row seating, like on a plane, as well as a public cabin with some tables and benches you could sit at and socialize. We spent most of our time in that cabin, sneaking whiskey, playing guitar, and reading comics. It also had a big glass window so you could take in more of the scenery. I'd say about every hour or two the train would stop to pick people up, and let them off. We stopped and got out as often as we could to smoke cigarettes. Sometime during day 2 of our trip, we were in the Midwestern part of the US where it seemed like we had passed nothing but cornfields forever. What I remember is that my buddy and I had drank all of our liquor, and then it was around dusk, and we were in the public cabin reading comics. Some guy had gotten on the train during one of the last few stops and asked if he could chill with us at our table in the public cabin. I don't remember much about how he looked, except he was pretty tall and lanky, and I had guessed he was probably in his late 20s or early 30s. I feel like he was wearing a trench coat, but I might be embellishing it in my brain. He definitely had a duffel bag. We didn't really get a good vibe from him, but he immediately offered us some of the watermelon rum he had with him. Yeah, it was gross, and yeah, there were clearly no adults who gave a frick on this Amtrak. We let him sit with us, shared some rum with this complete stranger, and made small talk. This is where it starts to get creepy. We told him about our trip, where we were going, had come from, etc. We asked him the same questions. I have to summarize, because I don't remember exactly what he said, but this is the gist of it. He was from a small town in the Midwest and frequently traveled on the train, just for fun. He would go up throughout the neighboring states, wait at a station, and get back on another train to go home. The reason he traveled with a duffel bag full of fruit-flavored booze was because his favorite pastime on the train was meeting Amish girls on Rumspringa. He explained to us that Rumspringa is the period of time that Amish teens get to leave their sheltered communities and experience the real world. Keep in mind the boys and girls on Rumspringa are typically right around 16 years old, very naive due to the close-knit religious upbringings they experience. So imagine that you're a 16-year-old Amish girl, scared and excited to leave your home for the first time, and one of the first people you meet is this dude with his watermelon rum. I don't think I have to go into detail about what he liked to do once he got these underage girls intoxicated on the train. Me and my friend were raised to know what he was talking about was very, very wrong, but we were unequipped with how to deal with it, besides getting visibly uncomfortable. Now, in my 30s, it makes me so much more than just uncomfortable, and I wish there was more I could have done to stop his evil behavior. I remember after he changed the subject, he also tried to sell us, admittedly, counterfeit designer handbags. We told him we weren't interested. Luckily he didn't hang out with us for too much longer and left us alone until he got off the train. I also remember asking an employee on the train if they had seen him before, and they said they saw him at least twice a week. Thanks for reading. I wish you a happy New Year's Eve, and I hope that there aren't others trying to exploit the young and naive like this creep, but 2020 hasn't left me with much faith in humanity. P.S. Me and my traveling partner are still best friends, but now we are both sober, non-smoking grown-ups who wear regular dad clothes with normal haircuts but still listen to SHT music. The story occurs in Paris. I was 16 years old, and in the 11th grade I am a very careless person when it comes to avoiding theft, assault, etc. Due to me growing up in a very safe place, the trip from my school to my place is only about 7 minutes long by foot, so I will often go home if I have a free hour in the middle of the day. I was walking to school at about 5 p.m., when suddenly, a guy approached me. He seemed to be in his 30s or 40s. He was quite big. And there was something about him, both physically and with his voice, that reminded me a lot of a friendly classmate of mine, which may be another reason why I was very careless with him. He asked me for the directions somewhere, and I didn't know the answer. He asked me to check on Google Maps for him. I found it weird that he didn't have a cell phone, and I was afraid of being late to school. But I didn't want to seem rude, so I looked it up for him. For some reason, I couldn't find the right place or directions. And after a few tries, he proposed to just type it himself. I didn't want to lend my phone to a stranger. I don't even like lending it to my friends. So I told him sorry, but I have to get to school. He insisted. After this, I have no idea what goes into my head. Was it the unusual situation that made me act stupidly? But I just lended him my phone. He put the address and gave it back to me after finding the way. While all this was happening, we were walking together to my school. He was very chatty and friendly. This may be normal where you are, but in Paris, chatting up strangers is not considered normal at all. In the conversation, I mentioned that I was in high school and therefore underage. After knowing that, he repeated multiple times that I seemed older, that he hadn't realized, etc., but he didn't leave. He only left when I arrived at school. He thanked me and kissed me on the cheek. I was so baffled I again just let him do it. Now that might seem normal for people who think French people are always kissing strangers on the cheek. But it's not. I won't get into details about the etiquette of French greeting, but that was a situation where kissing me on the cheek was very weird. After that he left, and I never saw him again. I hope I won't. When I thought about this situation again, I realized how weird it was that I let him do all this. Was it really just me being afraid of being rude? Or something else? Like me trying to go along so that the situation would seem normal? Enjoying the beautiful weather, I start walking to work. Then this white van with rust pulls up to me and rolls down the window. A man with really thick glasses pops his head out and asks, "Hello, I'm a bit lost. Is such and such apartments around here?" "Yeah," I point up the alleyway in between the two buildings. "Head straight through and you'll find it." "Okay," he replied. "So, just heading home from school?" "Heading to work right now." I smile, pointing to the backpack. Half the time it's easier than lugging a purse around on the bus. "Is that so?" He smiles. "Yup. Can't afford the car yet, but I'm working on it. Anyway, I have to get going, but you have a good day." The look on his face becomes confused. Wiping his sweaty forehead, he pushes his bangs off his face. He then sticks his head out farther and squints at me. Without saying anything else, he ducks his head back in and speeds down the alleyway. He was going much faster than he should have been. I noticed before he peeled off that he had no license plate. Throughout that shift, things started to tick into place. I looked very young, in my 20s. Late bloomer with a baby face, I guess. And I had a backpack. We were literally 2 blocks away from a middle school. And he had an unmarked van. The greasy old codger thought I was a kid. But due to his poor eyesight, he couldn't tell right away. He was looking for possible victims, offering them rides in his van. By the time I made a report, the police officer said they would be on the lookout. But with no plates, he would be harder to find. White is the most generic color for a van on the planet. I wasn't as scared as just pissed at myself. What if he had picked up a kid and I didn't stop him? The guilt haunts me to this day.